Hey, namaste. So today I am going to try to do my best to tie together acceptance and Dharma practices when it comes to recovery, sobriety, and spirituality. While this video is named Acceptance and Dharma Practices, I do want to put a disclaimer that while Dharma typically tends to be related to Buddhism, which has the belief that there is no God, right? Sanatana Dharma, which is Hinduism, is also going to be touched on in this video, and they most definitely believe in a God and the self or soul. So I don't want this to turn anyone off that it does not have a belief in a God. That's totally cool. I would ask that you take what you can get from this video and leave the rest that you don't relate with, that doesn't help you. I personally follow the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma, so I do believe in a God, and that helps me with my 12-step program. I originally got introduced to all of this through Buddhism, and I practiced that for a number of years, and it's my slow evolution change of spiritual practices have kind of pushed me further in a different direction, and impermanence, that's part of this video. Everything's ever changing. So I just ask you to take what you can get from this, what you need, and leave the rest, and please try to keep an open mind. So I was in a meeting last week, and the topic that was brought was acceptance, and it was quoted from page 417 in the AA Big Book that acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. And there were a lot of different opinions on it, mostly in two camps. Ones that were for it and loved it, and then the other side, understandably, that was a major struggle with it and had the opinion of you can't just accept everything as a blanket acceptance. And they had some struggles with it. So in my experience when it comes to acceptance, I kind of relate it to the 3rd and the 11th step. When I'm truly not living in my own will and I'm trusting in something greater than me, that maybe things aren't going to end up the way that I want it to, but I know that in my heart it will be okay with however it does end up. And when I have that kind of relationship spiritually, it's a lot easier to get through life, right? But it is very easy for me to take my own will back and want to try to control situations, which leads into really the goal really is to tie together Dharma practices and how that relates with 12-step programs, and if you're not in a 12-step program, how it relates to life in general, right? So when something happens and it is not the way I want it to be, I find it unacceptable, and I want to jump in and I want to change it up and I want to force it to go my way, or I dwell on it. That's creating suffering, as the Buddha said. The first noble truth in Buddhism states that there is suffering in this life. Clearly, we've all experienced it. The second noble truth is the cause of that suffering. And that is pretty much the inability to go with the flow, right? We have aversions, we have attachments, and we cling to people, places, things, and situations. But the problem is impermanence. Major fact of life, everything changes. It's constantly changing. So being that change can be uncomfortable and painful, our inability to sit through it, feel those emotions, feel those feelings, and understand that that too will change in time. The desire, and which leads to sometimes an obsession to control everything outside of the way I react to situations, causes causes all of the suffering that we encounter in our lives. And I'd even say that the not taking the action on trying to change the situation is the easy part. How many times have we really suffered in silence? It's pretty easy to just go, okay, I won't get involved, but still obsess over whatever the situation may be. And with that, I relate it to prior to getting sober through 12 steps or through whatever it is that you work. In my experience, I could be abstinent from the alcohol and from the drugs for however long I could. And while that is great that I wasn't actively introducing those toxins into my body, my mind was still so toxic with the obsession over either I really, really want to drink and I'm not going to, or I really don't want to drink. And for a long time, that was my life. It was those two thoughts, and that was my existence. Obsessing over how I don't want to do it, or obsessing over how I want to do it and I can't. So just by simply not doing the behavior around it really isn't the root of the problem. Now, if we can find a way to break that obsession, to break the desire, to make it so, we don't even really have to think about it. It's not a struggle. That, I think, is the root of it all when it comes to acceptance. So after the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha goes on to explain 8 different practices that one can do daily to help find that sweet spot of going with the flow of life. And they go as follows. 1, wise understanding. 2, wise intention. 3, wise speech. 4, wise action. 5, wise livelihood. 6, wise effort. 7, wise mindfulness. And 8, wise concentration. Now, I know that might seem like a lot. 8 things on top of the 12 steps, 20 things daily, or at least 20 practices. But for me, I find that if I focused on 7 and 8, wise mindfulness and wise concentration, the other 6 tend to fall right into place when I'm actively working those 2 other ones. When I'm mindful of how I'm feeling and what's causing those feelings, right? I can self-inquire and go into, why am I feeling this way? Is this a true thought that is negative self-talk? If it's not, like, whose thought is it? Where did I hear this? Where did it come from? Why does it stick with me till today? If I'm being mindful and I'm concentrating in the moment, it makes it a lot easier to make informed decisions in the moment, having to do with acceptance, right? If a situation arises in, example, a relationship, and something that happened to me years ago is triggered, and I'm worried and I'm anxious, and I'm like, well, this is really similar, I'm then really living in the past, projecting all of that onto the situation. That prevents me from any form of actual acceptance, and it prevents me from making an informed decision on what's really going on. I'm bringing all of this stuff from the past into the present moment that's not real. It's not a danger. It's not real right now, in the here and now. So I find that it really, with any situation in life, it can really rob or steal the joy and the ability to just be in the moment. It's a lot more peaceful, a lot more joyous, just to be here now. Now, in Sanatana Dharma, which is Hinduism, there's the philosophy that there is a self or a soul, the Atman, right? In Buddhism, they don't believe that. There's no self. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma, where there's a belief in self and belief in God, right? So Ram Dass has a really interesting take on being an actor playing a role, like was referenced in the quote earlier from 417, where Shakespeare talked about that, right? His philosophy is that we are playing a role, right? We're just acting out our karmic predicament that we have in this lifetime in this role. And when I was able to really digest that and figure out what it meant for me, it's a lot easier. It puts a little buffer zone between how serious I take life and what's going on in this moment, and like what's actually happening, if that makes sense. It's a lot easier to be in the moment if I'm not taking myself so seriously, right? He goes on to explain that people do get caught up in being the actor. They get caught up in being, who they identify with, the body, the personality, or the ego. I'm Connor and this is me. But the way he breaks it down and asks, who's thinking about the thinking right now? When you're in meditation, who's taking the step back and watching all of the thoughts go by? Right? That's pure awareness. That is consciousness. And that is who I truly am, who we truly are. It's the universe playing itself out through a human experience. So when we're able to slowly take these steps back in this philosophy and kind of get a bigger picture of this belief system, it is a lot easier to see that the day-to-day things maybe aren't as serious as we perceive them to be in the moment. So, taking the step back of realizing I'm living in my own will and then handing that will over to something greater and trusting in that. And then picking up the practice of meditation and being mindful and the wise concentration to be able to discern and really self-inquiry of what's going on in this present moment and how do I want to proceed from here. Am I going to let traumas and anxieties and hurt from the past inform what I'm about to do right now and continue to play out this cycle in my life and this pattern, which will continue to hurt me And then from there, being able to take the step back and self-inquire about who am I? What is self? What do I truly identify with? Each of those steps is a little bit further away from the problem, which is not being able to accept. So another part of the meeting I was in was people talking about there's really no blanket acceptance, right? I do believe that. I think that's true. I think that there are situations where you have to fight injustice. You have to stand up for yourself in situations. I believe that for me, when I handed my will over, when I'm living in the will of a power greater than myself, the acceptance isn't someone hit me in the face, I'm not going to do anything. The acceptance is more realizing that whatever is playing out isn't as serious as I initially see it as at the end of the day. Or better explained is the acceptance is I don't have to like it, right? But it is what it is. Reality is what reality is. So being able to just see it as, okay, it is what it is, and being able to let it go, in the end benefits me because I am not hung up on this thing that I don't like and obsessing over it and creating the suffering in my reality, that if I'm trusting in something greater than myself, that things will be okay, then things are going to be okay. I don't have to like it, right? I don't have to be around people that I don't like. I don't have to put up with injustice. I don't have to put up with any of that. But on the bigger picture of life, it is just the acceptance that, realizing when things are out of my control, which is all the time. Being able to accept the things I can't change, which is everything out of me. The courage to change the things I can, which is my reaction to things. And the wisdom to know the difference is being mindful in the present moment, practicing that mindfulness, practicing the concentration, doing meditation, being able to sit quietly with myself and really see things for what they are, and accept my inability to change them. It's not easy, right? So it's a daily practice. It's very easy to get caught up in the melodrama of life, and this is what I want, and this is the way I think it should be. And while you can feel that, while you can have ways that you would like things to go, and you can, in a healthy way, work on those kind of things to make them hopefully turn out, the acceptance is realizing that it's not up to me at the end of the day how life goes. And when realizing that, it's a lot easier to move through life in the present moment, enjoying the present moment. I truly feel that being present is where joy lives, right? There's no anxiety from the past, and there's no anxiety about the future and how things are going to end up playing out, because no amount of anxiety can change the outcome of something that hasn't happened yet. That can't change the outcome of anything, even if it has happened, right? So being able to be here now and just realizing that, life doesn't happen to me. Life just happens. Things don't happen to me. Things just happen. And I happen to be, in this karmic predicament of playing out this role in this lifetime. And these are the things that I need to go through and face and figure out a way to successfully make it through day to day. And for me, that has to do with meditation, with yoga, with my Dharma studies, with spirituality, Alcoholics Anonymous for me specifically. There's many different ways, and none of these ways have the monopoly on helping with acceptance, but this combination of things I found helps me accept life on life's terms. And like I said, it's a practice. I'm not super great at it, right? But the more I work on it, the more time I spend in being the witness rather than being caught up in the personality and ego of why things need to go a certain way. And the more time I practice and the more time I spend on being present and aware and mindful, the easier it is to notice when I drop out of being the witness and I get caught up in what's going on. The faster I realize, oh wow, wait, I'm taking this way too seriously, right? So it's a daily practice. I've been meditating on and off for years now, and I still have times where I sit down and it's just, I can't get in the zone of it per se. So if you would like to, look into meditation, I'm probably going to make another video on that here pretty soon. But I would like to say, if you start with maybe 5 minutes in the morning and 5 at night, And just find a quiet, comfortable place, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing. When you breathe in, think rise, and when you breathe out, think fall. And do that for 5 minutes. And when you find yourself drifting off into thought, that's perfectly fine, because the actual practice of meditation is when you realize that you're in thought. It's that recognition and bringing it gently, nicely back to your breath. Don't beat yourself up over it, because that's what the mind does. It thinks, it wanders. That's what it's there for, you know. So the purpose of meditation isn't not to think. It's to be able to look at your thoughts, you know, from a different perspective, and see that they don't control you. It's not about controlling your thoughts. It's just about letting them not control you. I think I've touched on pretty much everything I was going to in this video. And I appreciate you watching, and if you have any requests on any other topics, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Hey, namaste.